Well, the end of Black Ops 4's time as the primary Call of Duty title has almost come to a close, as Modern Warfare is only a few weeks away, and with that, Black Ops 4's main content season has effectively come to an end, as we really only have a few more shop refreshes and playlist updates left before MW takes over as the major COD title for the upcoming year. Sure, BO4 might receive a one-off update here and there throughout late 2019 and 2020, but as far as the major content drops go, those are all now in the past, as our 6 guaranteed operations have all come and gone. It all kicked off with Operation First Strike at the end of October last year, and that was the first major content addition to the game. In the time since, we've also seen Operation Absolute Zero, Operation Grand Heist, Operation Spectre Rising, Operation Apocalypse Z, and of course, most recently, Operation Dark Divide. Throughout these 6 operations, we've seen a ton of content come to the game in the form of DLC maps for both multiplayer and zombies, Blackout map updates and changes, and even a new Blackout map with Alcatraz, plenty of DLC weapons of the ranged and melee variety, and a handful of other things as well. So today, with Black Ops 4's end rapidly approaching, I figured we would sit down and break down each individual operation and rank them from worst to best, and really, I guess, reminisce on this past year of Call of Duty, since it was by far one of the most interesting and also most controversial that we have ever seen. Before we jump into all of that though, if you are new here and you want to stay on top of the latest news, intel, and all other information in the world of Call of Duty, feel free to subscribe and click that bell icon, that way you'll always know when a new video goes live. And of course, if you enjoyed this video, let me know by dropping a like rating on it, as it would be much appreciated and it does really help out the channel. And now let's get into the end of Black Ops 4's content season and rank the operations we saw this past year. So we are going to be going from worst to best, and we're starting with Operation First Strike, which wasn't necessarily bad by any means, but compared to literally all 5 of the other operations, its content just can't compete. Operation First Strike did not have any kind of DLC maps, it didn't have any physical DLC weapons, and was more so just an entry step into the post-launch content season, as the most extreme thing it had included in it was the black market itself. We ended up seeing the very first contraband stream available in Operation First Strike, and this stream consisted of 200 tiers, most of which ended up being reserve cases, but in between those we saw a lot of stickers, calling cards and gestures, and a handful of more valuable things like the Damascus GKS signature weapon, the Titan Sandstorm signature weapon, the Hudson Blackout character, and also the ICR Blinding Glory signature weapon. Outside of that though, Operation First Strike really wasn't anything to write home about in all honesty, so in my mind it stands as the worst operation simply from a content standpoint. The following 5 operations were all placed on a much more equal playing field though, as they all included DLC maps, DLC weapons, and other major changes as well. So with that, the operation that I feel like follows First Strike in terms of just not being that great is Operation Grand Heist. In my mind, it is the second worst operation, mainly because I feel like Grand Heist sparked the snowball effect that Black Ops 4 had plague it when it comes to the reserve content and MTX overload. While Grand Heist did have some pretty cool updates, like the Outriders Specialist, the Ghost Town location in Blackout, and the Casino and Lockup MP maps, it felt like from the get-go, Grand Heist's content was driven through the black market, which is not really what the player base wanted to see. To be fair, the Rampage Shotgun DLC weapon and the Switchblade SMG DLC weapon were both available in the tiers, but Grand Heist also flooded the reserves with high-value content that could have easily replaced the filler content that we saw in the tiers. And we also saw things like the $30 Demo Hammer melee weapon debut during the operation as well. Also, something else that really bothered me during Grand Heist was the whole Vendetta mystery. From day 1, or technically day 0, the Vendetta sniper rifle was teased in the operation's reveal trailer and even on the operation's promotional art. Yet, for the entire operation, we didn't see the Vendetta released, which is something that not only confused a lot of people, but generally upset them as well, as it's only natural that if something is teased in an operational trailer, it would end up releasing during that operation. But lo and behold, Grand Heist came and went and the Vendetta was nowhere to be found. Following Grand Heist, we jump into the middle ground of my ranks for the 3 and 4 spots, and at the number 3 spot, I've got Operation Absolute Zero. Absolute Zero was the second operation we ended up seeing in BO4, and it was the first time we saw a new specialist, DLC weapons, and some major blackout map changes. Zero was the very first DLC specialist that we saw in the game, and she was unlocked at Tier 1 of the Operations Contraband stream. Despite being the first DLC specialist though, and there being a decent amount of hype around her release, to this day I think Zero is the worst specialist in the game, simply because her abilities take away the skill gap that allows better players to succeed. There is nothing more annoying than dropping high streaks, only to have them either hacked or destroyed immediately thanks to someone on the other team using Zero. At the same time though, to balance out the negative that was Zero, some big positives of Absolute Zero were the DLC weapons in the Damon 3XB and the SWAT RFT, which are easily two of my favorite weapons to use both in Blackout and also in multiplayer. And on top of that, we also saw Hijacked added into Blackout as the first ever brand new location. Now, depending on where you liked to land, this was either a very big and impactful update or a pretty obsolete one, but to me, it really just increased the chaos in Blackout, and I was a pretty big fan of that. Then, an operation that I think is a bit better than Absolute Zero, but not good enough to be my number 1 or number 2, is that of Operation Dark Divide. This is obviously our most recent operation, and while it got a fair bit of criticism for throwing away the quote-unquote realistic ties to Black Ops with its superhero versus villains theme, I actually like the fact that the devs just wanted to have fun with this last operation and send BO4 off on a less serious note. I will say, the content that we have in this operation through the tiers and through the rest of the black market is honestly pretty cool. I like the outfits a lot, and the weapons aren't too shabby either, although I would have preferred some new weapons instead of some recycled ones from BO2 and BO3, but nonetheless, from a content standpoint, Dark Divide is pretty cool. Not to mention the Blackout update is awesome in my mind, as the lighting and the color tone of the map is perfect, and the Heavy Metal Heroes mode I find to be really fun. At first, I was a bit skeptical about the mode in general, but after giving it some time, I really found myself having a lot of fun using the jetpack and the unlimited grapples to alter the pace of play. Next up, coming in as my second favorite operation, we've got Spectre Rising, which was the 4th operation we saw this year, and it introduced Spectre as a specialist who I always enjoyed using back in BO3, so I am definitely a big fan of Spectre in this game as well. And on top of that, I think Spectre Rising was great from a longevity standpoint. With the 3 prior operations, around the halfway point of those, things would start to get a bit boring, as there really wasn't a ton of content debuted in the second half of those operations. But Spectre Rising introduced a split operation, where halfway through we saw the Days of Summer event go live, which added in even more weapons, new blackout changes, and all things of that nature, which ultimately just meant the game felt fresher for longer all throughout the entire operation, which was not only great for just playing the game in general, but also great from a content creation standpoint as well, as there was always stuff to cover and to look forward to. Then, obviously, by process of elimination, that only leaves one operation left, and that is Operation Apocalypse Z, and it was easily my favorite content season that we saw all year long, mainly because I loved the lore and the story behind it. The teases leading up to the operation launching in Blackout I thought were absolutely awesome, from the hints at zombie attacks happening across the map to the radio broadcasts. I thoroughly enjoyed the teases leading up to the operation's debut. Once it launched, although weapons were locked behind reserves, which I was not a fan of whatsoever, the majority of the black market content was pretty cool, with the various zombified outfits, and of course Reaper being the brand new specialist, who was actually my favorite specialist back in BO3. Pandemic was also a super fun mode in Blackouts, and while I will say I didn't really like the lighting and the lack of vibrancy on the map itself, it wasn't unplayable. And this is where I turn to you guys. Let me know down in the comments below which operation was your favorite and why. I'm curious to see what you guys have to say about that. With that being said though, that is effectively going to wrap things up for today. If you guys enjoyed the video, let me know by dropping a like rating on it, as it would be much appreciated. And of course, if you are new here and you want to stay up to date with everything going on in the world of Call of Duty, feel free to subscribe with your post notifications turned on. That way you'll always know when a new video goes live. As always, be sure to use code IMMORTAL on all G Fuel, Control Freak, and Respawn products. All of those links can be found down below. And once again, thanks so much for tuning in. Until next time, take it easy, have an awesome rest of your day, and we'll catch you guys later. Peace out.